In the forest of Sumatra, 8,000 kilometres to the south, there's another less well-known ape-man legend. So could this be the sign that we're not alone? It's a print attributed to Orang Pendek, the short man, and it certainly excited leading primate scientist David Chivers.
The footprints are amazing, and the mixture of ape and human features blended together. It's retained some of the grasping abilities of the apes, but also got a sort of flat-footed version of the human foot. And this enables it to walk upright.
There's a team funded by Fauna and Flora International, and they're out here looking for this animal. They're searching in an extraordinary place called Karinchi Sablat. Now, we don't know much about this forest, but the one thing we do know is that it's not a barren snow desert like the Himalayas.
The forests of Southeast Asia, particularly Sumatra, are so complex and diverse, and still extensive, that it's quite feasible that there's a species of ape that's eluded discovery.
But it has been seen. Team member Debbie Marta first glimpsed the animal in 1993.
It walked straight across the valley in front of me, 30 metres away. So close and so clear. Didn't expect to see it. Certainly didn't expect to see it that clearly. And just walking between these two trees, vegetation to about hip level, this gorgeous, graceful, very strongly built primate, big ape, walking out of a legend and into broad daylight, lit up by the sun, and the disbelief of seeing this thing. And if I'd seen it concealed in undergrowth, I could have said, well, I saw something. But I didn't see something. I saw an orang pendek walk across the valley, just 30 metres away from me.
Debbie's main task is to follow up sightings and encounters, which means effective liaison with locals. The modern world has all but destroyed the orang kubu. In this tribe, only 30 remain. They're incredibly secretive, difficult to meet. But Debbie has their confidence. Without question, they're our best way of finding out what lives in this forest.
Saya mau Bapak Arau ketemu sama kawan saya. Ini Pak Chris di mana?
Hello. Hello.
Dan dia dari Inggris datang dari jauh ketemu sama kami.
One of the tribe, Pak Bu Yang, had a recent encounter with the orang pendek.
Iya, panjang.
Panjang. Panjang di mana? Panjang di badan sini atau?
It was the same color all over.
Ada yang lebih panjang atau yang lebih pendek?
Enggak, sama.
Its face was covered in hair, like a bear's.
Muka bentuknya apa? Atau tidak lihat?
Mukanya tuh seperti.
But it wasn't a bear. We all know bears.
Iya.
Tapi Bapak
Could he have got it wrong?
Enggak.
No,
Kita sudah
it
paham.
was a man of the forest.
OK, they know it's here, but they couldn't show me one. But then there are a few British mammals, otters in England, pine martens in Scotland, that I wouldn't be able to show them. The fact is that gathering good scientific evidence here is incredibly tough. Basically, it's the environment, the heat, the wet and the mud. In the last 4 years, the team have found footprints in lots of different locations, often in long, continuous tracks, and they all have the features of upright walking that so excited David Chivers. The team are convinced that they're pretty conclusive evidence.
You can actually see the movement of the foot. You've got the toes, 1, 2, 3, 4 toes. This is a large primate, and its foot doesn't approximate in any way to any other primate that's known in these forests.
The one thing, short of a dead body, that would prove there's a new species here is DNA. But its collection requires absolute sterility. In these conditions, that's quite unimaginable.
What we're looking for is DNA from the gut wall of the animal, which we can then get analysed.
So far, none of the lab results have proved positive. And as for finding a body, there's virtually no chance. When something dies, it can disappear overnight. In this heat and moisture, it becomes an insect and fungus banquet, and then porcupines eat the bones. Nevertheless, to David Chivers, the search is still worthwhile.
What really excited me was reading Deborah's reports, and it sent shivers down your spine. It was so uncanny, and given the frequency of these sightings, there's got to be something out there that is incredible. Will make a real tremendous discovery, a new ape for a new millennium.
Short of the body or bones that science craves, a good clear photograph would be the next best thing. But just like everything here, it's not easy. A Sumatran forest is probably one of the trickiest places to photograph wildlife in the world. Even state-of-the-art, lightweight autofocus equipment isn't going to get you a picture unless you're extremely lucky. And it's a result, not luck, that's needed here. But whilst to date Debbie has drawn a blank, the team photographer, Jeremy Holden, has made remarkable progress.
This is how we're doing it. This is how we're getting the pictures. Basically, we're just using a off-the-shelf infrared unit here, fitted onto an ordinary 35mm compact camera, which has been specially adapted to fire when the infrared beam here is broken by anything passing along the trail.
It's a simple technique, producing startling results.
This one, for instance, is a picture of a Sumatran tiger, very seldom seen and very rarely photographed.
Yeah. Fantastic, fantastic.
This was Project First. It's a melanistic golden cat.
And again, an animal which you don't see very often, I presume.
Well, I did actually manage to see this one, but only once. But this animal, the Sumatran tapir, the size of a buffalo, black and white, extremely conspicuous and not very intelligent, but yet I've never have seen one.
And yet here it is in full colour.
This is something that's even rarer. It's a cloudy leopard.
Look at that. But the most extraordinary was a bird.
This one here, very, very poor quality picture, but it just shows what can be done. This is a giant pitta, which is something that hadn't been recorded in the national park ever, and in fact hadn't been recorded in Sumatra for over 100 years.
Wow, wow. Look at that. This is a picture of an animal that one could reasonably call extinct. So could this technique record another, which supposedly doesn't exist?
If we're going to get a picture of Oran Pendek, if we're going to prove it exists, this is the way we're going to do it.
And you know, I believe him. I think if there's anyone on the planet who's going to discover an animal that's on the brink of our knowledge, Jeremy could be the one to do it. Now, I have to admit, I've found little more evidence for Orang Pendek than for the Yeti, but there's a dramatic difference in their viability. Nepal is cold and barren, whereas this Sumatran rainforest is an incredibly fertile resource. If, as a rational scientist, I could afford to pin hope anywhere, this is where I'd stick my pin. Surely here is our best chance of an X-creature. Thousands of square miles of the world's richest and most productive forest, an unexplored wilderness, and a place where it's incredibly easy for an animal to hide. It's a place where an animal can leave traces but no tracks, where a dead animal can be skin and bones 1 minute and gone the next. And yet it's the same place that a small team of people have already identified animals that aren't meant to be here. So maybe tomorrow, maybe next month or next year, somewhere out there in the mist, a flash gun will go pop in the gloom, and Orang Pendek will go from being an X-creature to the next creature.